it's interesting how much of the Native American element just filters through.
The mixture of cultures, you never know what's going to come of it. And from that, sometimes very interesting artistic things happen, you know? From Charlie Patton to Link Wray. Bobby Robertson invented the genre. Jimi Hendrix, the best in his field. You know, Jesse and Davis, everybody wanted him. Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
Our peoples were part of the origin story of blues and jazz and rock of American music, but we're left out of the story consistently from the beginning.
Figuring out that these people were Indians, and then we started to ask ourselves, why didn't anyone else know that?
It's an American story. It's a human story. Don't break it apart. Pay the respect that is due.
It was that the sound of that guitar is the key on Link Wray and aggression. The sound of his guitar embodied all my aspirations. It was a sound of freedom.
Link Wray. Oh boy, I wanted to meet you for a long time.
There might not be a Who where there are no Link Wray. There might not be a Jeff Beck group where there are no Link Wray. There might not be Led Zeppelin if there were no Link Wray.
Pete Townsend thought Link Wray was one of the great guitar players of all time. That this guy had invented the power chord. He made it new, put more color on it, put more weight on it, turned it into I Can See for Miles.
With Link, and Black River Swamp is really a nice tune.
You know, that's about a place where I was born, down in North Carolina.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm from North Carolina. And I'm out in the country of Dunn. And Dunn's a real small place, but I live in the country. It's a place called Black River.
Down in the country, where the pine trees grow so.
And they struggled. They were very poor. And I'm sure he probably fished in the pond to try to get food because, you know, times were really rough. He's got Shawnee on there, Native American. You didn't go around telling everybody you were Native American. Everybody hid it because of the way other people looked down on them.
Link said that he hid under the bed one day because they could hear the KKK coming through because like all cowards, they would come at night and they would terrorize people when they least expected it.
Ku Klux Klan was after anybody who wasn't white. And if you were known to be an Indian, you were just as susceptible as any African American person.
My Shawnee mommy, she went out into the fields and was preaching to the blacks and to the Cherokee Indians and poor whites, saying, you keep your morals high, believe in God, you know. And me and my brothers, we were singing, you know, Will the Circle Be Unbroken, and all those gospel songs behind my mom, you know, when she was out there preaching.
I was taught by a black man called Hambone who was raised up in the circus, and he could play everything, you know. And he taught me how to play the blues, you know, and I started off from there, and then I started paying bands, you know, to let me sit in with them so I could get better, you know.
Were there early rock and roll influences? I mean, you were among...
There was no rock and roll then.
I was doing this hop at this record hop in Fredericksburg, Virginia, 1957.
The kids were gathered around in this arena, and they were yelling for the stroll. And Link says, I don't know a stroll.
So I don't know a stroll. Doug said, I know the beat behind one. And you think, I said, okay. And I went like this, and then my guard, man, watching me, he said, bam. I went.
It's in the middle of the night and the radio's on, and here comes this sound, that makes you levitate out of bed about 4 feet. What is he doing? There's no sound like that. Nowhere on the air.
It changed everything. Rumble made an indelible mark on the whole evolution of where rock and roll was going to go. And then I found out that he was an Indian.
Was the rawest form of the kind of guitar that a lot of the guys that I listen to is where it started, and it even still sounds better when he does it.
I was in the cafeteria, and on the university PA system, I heard ba 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 boom 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 boom. I said, why? Whoa, what is that? Rumble had the power to push me over the edge, and it did help me say, fuck it, I'm gonna be a musician.
I think Link Wray purely loved rock and roll and felt pissed off and annoyed and disappointed that in some ways, because he was Shawnee, half Shawnee, and his family had been treated so badly, he took that bitterness and created it into something that was not reductive but proactive. And the idea of Rumble, just from a superficial, almost reactionary level, is like to fight, right? But for me, it means to disrupt, to roar, to be active. So Link Wray announced with the Rumble that there was a shift happening in culture. This is not going to be the bop and the stroll, it's going to be the Rumble.
Here comes Link Wray with the theme song of Juvenile Delinquency, Hey, Rumble! I'm surprised you got any airplay. To be honest, I'm not surprised it was banned.
He is the only person who has an instrumental, no words, banned for fear it would incite teenage gang violence.
It was the sound, the chord progressions. That was the thing. It was the way they didn't understand the feedback. It was the groove. It was so many things that turned people off. Everybody can't be Pat Boone. You know what I mean?
His influence was so immense. Every musician in the world loves Link Wray. I don't know why the rest of the world hasn't figured that out.
Pick up the jams, motherfucker!
In the MC5, we would do these recording sessions, and the engineers would always say, oh, it's all distorted, man. You punks are, you're playing the amp too loud. And I'd say, yes, I want it distorted. That's what I want. No, you want it clean, like at Motown. So it goes chink. I said, no, I want it to go to like Link Ray. You know, I want that fuzz. I want the distortion. Link Ray's certainly one of the architects of my sound and the MC5 sound, and 1,000 other rock guitar players since then. I mean, you know, if you connect the dots back, you know, so you can trace heavy metal and punk rock and all that, and back to the Clash and the Ramones, the New York Dolls, the MC5, and a few others, and then before that, who was there, you know, and he was one of the first that really had a tone that pointed away to the future. Link Ray's huge on all modern electric guitar players. If they're saying he didn't influence, they're lying.
Thank you very much.